from our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond. You're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
Papa Hotel Lima Echo November radio check.
Papa Echo November, good afternoon, read you 5.
Good afternoon, read you 5 as well, Papa Echo November.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. Our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And here's a bit of news for each and every one of you. In about 10 days, all our interviews will be available for download on Amazon.com and other online stores. And the X-Zone CD that we did a couple of weeks ago, Music of the X-Zone, is also available on Amazon.com worldwide, and I must say we're very impressed by the number of people who are ordering it, and I want to thank you so much. Well, let's get back to business here. Dr. Susan Kolb is my guest this hour, and Dr. Kolb is a medical doctor with a specialty in plastic and reconstructive surgery. She has treated thousands of women with complications from breast implant surgery, and her practice has emerged as an international healing center for women with breast implant disease or other immune disorders. Her medical practice routinely incorporates state-of-the-art surgical technology with holistic medicine and spiritual healing. She graduated from Johns Hopkins University, received her medical degree from Washington University School of Medicine, and completed her postgraduate education in general and plastic surgery at Wilford Hall Medical Center. She served as a surgeon in the United States Air Force, specializing in treatment of burns, hand reconstruction, and cosmetic and reconstructive surgery. Dr. Kolb is a member of the American Society of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeons, a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and is certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery. She is a founding diplomat of the American Board of Holistic Medicine and a member of the American Holistic Medical Association. At this time, I'd like to welcome our guest this hour, Dr. Susan Kolb. And Dr. Susan, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's always a great pleasure talking to you. What I find fascinating, Doctor, is you're a medical doctor, and you use holistic and spiritual medicine as well. It's like bringing the best of all possibilities to help your patients, and that is commendable.
Well, thank you. I'm actually a spiritual healer who was guided to be a plastic surgeon.
Wow.
You might have heard the theory that when a problem is going to arise in consciousness, the solution arises at the same time.
Yes, I've heard that.
Have you ever thought of that? Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I guess other dimensional intelligence knew that we were going to get in trouble when we made breast implants. These are chemicals and silicone and shells that encase them not very well, and so they get loose in the body and cause all sorts of disease. They also can get infected with mold and bacteria and other things.
Oh.
So I think the intelligence of the world knew that we were going to get in trouble because we were messing with things that we didn't really understand. So I was guided in meditation, actually. When I was a major in the U.S. Air Force, and guess what you can do when you're a major in the U.S. Air Force? You can get breast implants for free.
All right, stand by,
that?
Dr. Kolb. No, I didn't, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mind you, I've never gone out to see if I could get breast implants for some funny reason. Dr.
Well,
Susan
that's probably
Kolb,
just as well.
all right, Dr. Susan Kolb is my special guest of this hour. www. Now, here's a couple of websites. www.templeofhealth.us and nakedtruthaboutbreastimplants.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. The Good Doctor and I return after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Susan Kolb is my very special guest, and what a great lady. Dr. Kolb, before we went to the commercial break, you were a major in the United States Air Force, and you were saying that, as a major, you could get breast implants.
That's correct, for free.
Wow.
And basically, I was on vacation and I got sick, and so instead of going out with my family, I stayed in and I was meditating, trying to feel better. And I was guided to get Dow Corning silicone gel breast implants. And thank goodness it was Dow Corning because, of course, they had the settlement, and I eventually was able to get part of that settlement, whereas any other type of implant, I would not have been able to do that.
Wow. I know of a case within my own family where there were problems with the breast implants, and I'll tell you, it's a scary thing. It really is scary.
Well, it's toxicity.
Yeah.
People say that implants are only silicone, but that's not true. There are about 30 different chemicals that were actually disclosed during the Dow Corning trials.
Wow.
As part of that, things like platinum, which is quite toxic, things like methylethyl ketone, which can cause arginine deficiencies and lead to Raynaud's syndrome, or when your fingers turn blue and white and get wounds on them. A whole host of chemicals, many of which are neurotoxins and carcinogens. And if you look at the peer-reviewed literature, women with ruptured or leaking breast implants have a high rate of cancers, not necessarily breast cancer, but cancers of the lung, of the brain, of other organs. So I believe it depresses the immune system. You have these carcinogens that are widely distributed throughout the body, and they get more than what they bargained for with these breast implants.
Let me ask you a direct question, doctor, because you're a lady who believes in, handling a problem right on and saying it as it is, and I respect that. Why is mold in breast implants, as well as sick building syndrome, covered up as a health problem, and why aren't these problems concerning breast implants and the 30 chemicals disclosed to the people who actually want the breast implants?
Well, they're not disclosed to the doctors. The doctors don't know that an entire journal in the toxicology literature was devoted to silicone toxicity. Instead, they say that, no, silicone's not toxic. There's no problem with any of this. Breast implants can't get infected. There's no, they will last many, many years, and you won't have to change them.
It seems like there's a major cover-up when it comes to breast implants.
There is.
Let me ask you this. Is there such a thing as a safe breast implant?
No, not really. Each implant needs to be changed on average between 8 and 15 years because the shell, which is similar in all implants, will break down once it's put in the body. And that would cause leakage. In the case of saline, if it's partial leakage, mold can get in and cause infection or sick building syndrome. That's from the biotoxin. And then if there's silicone gel in there, that basically it can leak out and cause the problems we were talking about.
When it comes to the patient, what are some of the first signs and symptoms that they feel, and yet they may not know that their sickness or why they're feeling so bad is actually due to a leaky breast implant?
Well, in the case of saline implants, it's fibromyalgia. The fatigue, muscle ache, mental clouding, sometimes burning pain, or even just a burning discomfort. The immune system goes down. They get viruses easily. They can have endocrine disruption. They get fatigue. They drink and pee all the time because of an ADH deficiency. Their sex hormones are off. Their thyroid's off. Their hair starts falling out. Neurological signs in some of them, numbness, twitching, these kind of things. But that's a pretty pure disease because that's just biotoxins.
Right. Is it reversible?
Yes, we have to do surgery to remove the capsule as well as the implant, put the patients on antifungals, and treat the immune system, the endocrine system, and do what we call biotoxin detoxification. That can be done with high doses of vitamin C. I like to use a herbal formula called mold sporox and other things that help get the biotoxin out of the body.
Wow. Now, when a patient has breast implants, are they told by the doctor that these implants have a shelf life, if you'll excuse the expression, of 8 to 15 years, and that they're not, and that they should be changed?
Not usually. Many doctors don't realize that the implants will require being changed out. They may tell the patient that, of course, if they get a deflation or partial deflation, which looks like rippling, then they'll have to change them out. Or maybe the patient will be asked to get an MRI, pay for it themselves, and if that's abnormal, then get the silicone implants changed out.
It seems that there's so much behind the scenes. And do most women have breast implants just for cosmetic reasons?
No, a lot of women have it for reconstruction, either breast asymmetry after breast cancer or a mastectomy for pre-malignant disease. These women need to change these implants out every 10 to 15 years as well, because they're usually silicone in reconstruction. They don't use saline as much because it is more likely to ripple and not have a great cosmetic result.
What can be done to further protect patients who have breast implant surgery done?
Well, we need to have a registry and so we can track people and get information to them. And then they need to have trials, which are not necessarily run by the implant company, that not necessarily run by universities that are endowed by Dow Chemical and other companies that are multinational. But real trials where the patients who develop fibromyalgia aren't asked to leave the study, like the current trials. And the studies need to run for over 20 years because a lot of women don't have problems for the first 10.
Why are some groups intent on outlawing female genital surgery, saying that it's female mutilation?
I think that concept came from people that are mistaking the genital mutilation surgery where the clitoris is removed in certain third world countries with what we're doing, which is trimming the labia, either the majora or the minora, that's the inner or outer lips, and then removing the secondary hood, not the primary hood, but the secondary hood, so that that women can more easily achieve orgasm because there's not so much tissue in the way. So I think women who have the problem are going to the internet, and as you know, the internet has changed the way people get information.
Yeah, and whether it's good information or bad information, they just take the information.
Well, but, people can judge for themselves based on the pictures and the testimonials of the women. A group of us, myself and about probably 7 other surgeons, published a paper in the Journal of Sexual Medicine saying that what we're saying the surgery will do actually happens, which is decrease the discomfort with sex and sports and wearing certain clothing. And then in the case of clitoral unhooding, it actually does increase sexual orgasm in women, according to the women who've had the surgery. So that was the first paper ever published showing that we actually had the benefits that we were telling the patients they would have.
Here's a question, because I know you deal with this. We've talked briefly about the connection between cancer and what you do. Is there an increase in the number of people who are being diagnosed with cancer these days?
I believe there is overall. There certainly isn't a decrease in the overall amount of cancer. And I don't think except for some leukemias and lymphomas, I think the death rate from cancer has not significantly changed.
Why and how are cancer successes and cures being covered up? It makes no sense to me that if there's a cure, why cover it up? Or is it because that if the cure is exposed, Big Pharma starts to lose money?
Well, you have to understand that in the U.S. alone, it's estimated the cancer industry charges $8 billion a year.
Whoa.
And basically not very many people get cured if they're past a certain stage. And many of the patients getting cured are getting cured because of surgery and not because of chemotherapy or radiation.
Now, are there holistic cures that can be used with traditional medicine to help cure cancer?
Yes, we do a number of different things. One is immune therapies to help the body's immune system recognize the cancer. We do detoxification, which allows the immune system to work better, and then getting rid of some of the carcinogens that are involved in the process. And then there are anti-angiogenesis natural therapies that help prevent the tumors from getting blood supply.
All right, Dr. Kolb, I hate to do this, my dear, but you're in the business. You have your own radio show, so you know that we have to take commercials and do the news. So I hate to cut you off. Exonation, our very special guest this hour is Dr. Susan Kolb. And here's a couple of websites. All right, have your pencil and papers ready? Okay, here we go. www.templeofhealth.ws and www.nakedtruthaboutbreastimplants.com. My name is Rob McConnell, Dr. Susan Kolb, and I will be back on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Because I need you so.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network. www.xzbn.net.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show with my good friend, Earthling Rob McConnell, live and around the world on Talkstar. www.xzoneradio.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com.
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
I believe it's meant to be, darling. I watch you win.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Susan Kolb is my very special guest this hour. Here's a couple of websites, www.templeofhealth.ws and www.nakedtruthAboutBreastImplants.com. Dr. Kolb, we were talking before about breast implants, about the neurotoxins and the carcinogens. We talked a bit about the court cases, but what causes cancer? Like, what is the real cause?
Well, we've had a cancer clinic here in Atlanta since '99, and I've actually done quite a bit of exploration of cancer. I believe that cancer is caused when an organ, even if the organ is the blood, like in leukemia, loses energy. It can happen from radiation. It can happen from carcinogens. But one very common cause is toxic emotions. For example, with breast cancer, if a woman is right-handed and she has a biological conflict involving someone who's supposed to protect her, such as her husband or her father, and that person betrays her, she's very likely to get left-sided breast cancer. On the other hand, if someone she nurtures is in trouble, dies, or is rejecting her or some other problem, she's likely to get right-sided breast cancer. So we work with these ideas to increase the energy of the organ, at the same time closing down interdimensional portals, which we believe are very important in the cause of cancer. You may have heard of spontaneous remission. You may have heard of generational curses causing cancer. You have to look interdimensionally to understand cancer.
Do you think that quantum mechanics, quantum physics are going to play a major role in the curing of certain diseases? Because as we start investigating, like you do with holistic and spiritual healings, as working along with traditional Western medicine, do you think that the doors to the realm of curing, and I'm putting that in brackets, is going to increase?
Yes, about 10 years ago, I started on a quest with my radio show, Temple of Health, to interview cancer, holistic cancer doctors all over the world, as well as physicists. I interviewed Maku Kichu, who's one of the founders of the superstring theory.
Great guy.
Amit Goswami, who is a quantum physicist, who has quite a good understanding of downward causation, which can be used to explain spontaneous remission. But, Rob, until we explain spontaneous remission, we do not understand cancer.
Wow.
As you know.
So, somebody comes to you and they've been diagnosed by another doctor that they have cancer. They've heard of you, the great work that you do. What kind of treatment would they basically get? Or maybe there is no basic treatment when it comes to cancer. I would imagine it's very individualized, case per case. But are there any generalities you can share with us?
Yes, the first thing you have to determine is the patient's death date. We all have to die of something, and we all have a death date. Some people go out before their death date. They could commit suicide or get some disease that takes them out early. But if cancer is the way that you're going out, you just do palliative treatment rather than curative. The second thing we try to determine is if the patient really wants to get well. A lot of cancer patients have had a death wish at some time, usually after a very difficult period emotionally or some trauma they went through. And they actually tell me, because many of my patients are very spiritual, they know when it began because they understand when they started to create an exit plan. And then some of them change their mind, and of course, they want to change the energy.
Isn't that amazing? How do you establish a death date?
Clairvoyantly.
So once you establish the death date of the patient, if somebody just gives up and says, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to put up with this anymore. I've had it. I don't want to continue. You know, it doesn't. Whatever I do, this life of mine means nothing to anyone." How do you turn that around? How do you turn the determination of someone who doesn't want to get better?
Well, it's interesting. You may not be able to. I had a cancer patient who came to me with metastatic esophageal cancer and had absolutely no risk factors. And he kept telling his wife that he was going to die of this. And he went through chemotherapy. He did very well. He never had any complications, very little pain, one couple of days of pain, according to his wife. But he died. And I had a feeling he had died. I was actually on vacation in Lake Tahoe. And he appeared before me in spirit. And I said, "Oh, did you die?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "I need you to get a message to my wife." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Was there anything else we could have done for you?" And he said, "No, my death was karmic." And I went back and gave the message to his wife, and his wife said, including that he had told me his death was karmic, and she said she had gone to a psychic shortly after he was diagnosed who said he would have 12 rounds of chemotherapy, he would do very well, but he would die of the disease because she had left him in a previous life, and he had vowed to leave her in this life.
So you actually cover the whole realm. You're just not a medical doctor. You also incorporate spiritual healing, holistic medicine. You go into quantum physics. You go into clairvoyance. Where do you find time for Dr. Susan Kolb?
Well, my time for myself is mostly meditation. We meditate here at the center in a group 3 or 4 times a week, and that's where I get my healing and bringing energy for me.
You know that's what I do is when I finish everything here and I go home and I sit upstairs in the living room, I just have the fish tank light on, and I just sit there and as a child I used to call it zoning out, but now I realize that what I'm doing is I'm meditating.
Right.
And I just feel...
You're bringing energy in from a higher source.
Exactly.
Right.
I can think clearer at that point. I should be dead beat by any stretch of the imagination, but I find that most of the inspiration that I get for any of the many projects that I'm involved with comes at this time.
It does.
Yeah. And if I go to sleep with a problem, when I wake up in the morning, I've got the answer. Isn't
it wonderful?
It is. It is. Quick question. My producer just asked me to ask you, is stress related, or is there a connection between stress and cancer?
Absolutely. These biological conflicts can be, the death of a child, the death of a spouse, a really nasty court case, whatever the stress is. There is usually an identifiable stress with most cancers within a year to 6 months prior to the cancer developing. Sometimes it's longer. But I'll give you an example. My bookkeeper came down with breast cancer, as did her mother and 3 of her sisters. And it all stemmed from the fact that their father, who was a physician, got depressed and killed himself and had no life insurance. So the family was left destitute because there were, like, I guess, 4 or 5 children, and the mother didn't work because she was taking care of the kids. And each of them got breast cancer, left breast cancer, because, of course, it was a betrayal by somebody who was supposed to protect them.
Wow. It seems that cancer just sprouted into our lives going back, what, maybe 40 years ago. Prior to that, cancer was very rare, and then all of a sudden, you hear more and more and more and more. So this fast-paced life that we're living, the food, the junk food that most people eat on a daily basis, the lack of exercise, they're killing themselves.
And look at all the radiation. You know, we do a hair analysis looking for toxic elements, and many people have very high levels of uranium, especially with breast cancer.
Holy cow.
They were exposed to things that we shouldn't be exposed to. And, of course, I don't need to tell you about all the carcinogens that are in our food, water, and air supply.
That's so true. How about the microwave industry? You know, the cell phones, the cell towers, the Wi-Fi.
All of that contributes, yeah. Did you hear the story when they were microwaving everybody at the embassy in Russia?
No.
The American embassy. Everybody got ill. They got cancer, they had appendicitis, and it was well known that the Russians were microwaving the people in the embassy.
Unreal. You know,
that was actually on Jesse Ventura not too long ago.
Now there's
Weapons.
There's a cool guy. He's a real cool guy.
Yeah. He's also a brave guy.
He certainly is.
Did you hear about that segment where Art Bell's brother, Fred Bell, was interviewed by Jesse Ventura
No, I
on
didn't.
frequency weapons, and then 2 days later he died of a heart attack? And one of the well-known ways frequency weapons kills people is by clotting off the coronaries.
Wow. Coincidence? I don't think
I
so.
don't know.
You know, in the information that you were kind enough to send us, you talked about Morgellons, and we've done a series of shows on Morgellons, or the fiber disease, and we've had Dr. Hildegard Staninger on the show. She is fantastic.
She is.
She's
a lovely lady.
She is. She truly is. In your opinion, Dr. Kolb, what is Morgellons?
Morgellons is similar to cancer. It is a fourth dimensional intrusion into the third dimension. And I'm happy to say that we are very, very successful now in curing Morgellons.
That is fantastic.
By closing off that portal. And I'm hoping to do, something similar with cancer. So certainly, once you understand the disease in that manner, you have to understand more than just the third dimension. Then we can actually look around for effective treatments that aren't so, dangerous. We used to treat with antibiotics, antifungals, antiparasitics, and that certainly made people better, but it didn't cure them. But I'm happy to say I just saw 2 patients back. One had about 1,000 lesions all over him, and the other had several hundred lesions, and both of them are clear except for tiny pinpoint 1 or 2 lesions each.
You know, I remember, maybe 3-4 years ago when the Morgellons movement was at its peak. And, the pictures that they were sending all the members of the media of these lesions, of these fibers, and the stories that we heard were just horrific.
It's a terrible disease. It's also a fatiguing illness. These people are exhausted. They have neurological problems. It's not just a skin disease. It's made so that these people commit suicide or be totally worthless because all they can do is just sit in their room and suffer.
Unbelievable.
It is truly a spiritual illness, okay?
We've got to go to a commercial break quickly, but we've also talked to Dr. Hildegard Staninger about chemtrails. What is your take on chemtrails?
Well, I've interviewed I've interviewed Michael Murphy, who is the producer of What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Are They Spraying. And so I think chemtrails are there for, the reasons on the Georgia Guidestones, which is to reduce the population.
If it was to reduce the population, wouldn't they use methods that couldn't be associated with the that weren't so obvious? Because you look up in the sky, you see the trails, you see the patterns. Wouldn't it be easier to put something in the water, put something in food instead of the?
Well, I think that they are putting they are using other routes, but I think that the chemtrails, the cover for the chemtrails was the global warming.
Yes.
So they had a reason to do that. And then these other things could be added later on if they wanted to. I think there was just options open with the chemtrails. I'm not privy to any information. I don't know why. I don't have any factual evidence about what's going on with the chemtrails. And Dr. Staninger certainly knows a lot more than I do. She's studied them and published on them.
I figured I'd ask you because you were a major in the Air Force, and great
right.
beyond. Anyway, stand by, Dr. Kolb. We have to take our final break. Exo Nation, Dr. Susan Kolb is our special guest this hour, and we've got to get the good doctor back and talk about many more subjects that she is so knowledgeable on and helping you. www.templeofhealth.ws and nakedtruthaboutbreastimplants.com. The good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away. Exo Nation, Dr. Susan Kolb is my very special guest this hour. Here's a couple of websites, www.templeofhealth.ws and www.nakedtruthaboutbreastimplants.com. First of all, Dr. Kolb, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us, and thank you for the great work that you and your associates do. And God, just keep the great work up, and I look forward to the work that you're doing, not only with finding a cure for cancer, but also with the Morgellons, because that is one horrific disease. I understand the Center for Disease Control finally took a look at it, and then all of a sudden everything seemed to be quiet about it.
Yeah, the head of the CDC of that division saw her first case at my office here in Atlanta. But, of course, they relegated the study to Kaiser and then decided it was delusional, just the company line, which I expected that they would.
How could they say it's delusional when you actually have evidence?
Fibers? Well,
physical evidence.
This is the party line, and they will stick with that because this disease cannot be studied. You mentioned before that sick building syndrome is not studied, nor is it even recognized. And these are there are reasons behind that. I think we need to come back and do another hour on those reasons, though, because
sounds like a plan.
They're very deep. Okay.
Time goes by so fast when you're with us. What would you like to leave the Exo Nation with tonight? What's your message?
My message is use your intuitive guess before you make major decisions. Many of my patients say that they wish they'd followed their intuition and not gotten breast implants or not gotten, silicone breast implants or gotten saline instead. Just use your intuition. It's God-given. It's good advice, and it's free.
Are there as many dangers with the saline implants as there are with the silicone?
I think there's a lot less danger. You have to choose the right valve, and I don't like textured. I like smooth instead of textured because I feel silicone can get out in the body from the texturing. But, like everything else, there's risk and benefits, and if you go to a physician who is open-minded, you should be able to get a good idea of those risk and benefits.
So what's next for Dr. Susan Kolb?
Well, like we said, we're working with cancer, we're working with Morgellons, we're working with the toxicity elements of these breast implants, and right now that's keeping us quite busy.
Well, Doctor, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us, and I look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone to talk more about these fascinating topics that you share with us whenever you're here.
Thanks, Rob.
You take care, Doctor. Exonation Dr. Susan Kolb has been my guest this hour. Her website is www.templeofhealth.ws and www.nakedtruthaboutbreastimplants.com. As I was saying earlier, Exonation, all our interviews are going to be available on Amazon.com, as well as all the X Chronicles newspapers. They're done monthly on Amazon.com in a book format, and I must tell you, I just saw the first volume of 2012, January, February, and March of 2012. They've all been put into one book. It's about 144 pages, and it is fantastic. You have your choice of either getting it in color or black and white. A little more money for color. Well, what the heck. To find out what you can get from the X Zone Radio Show on Amazon.com, simply in the search engine put REL-MAR, X Zone Radio TV. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news here in the X Zone. Don't go away.